This is my journey. Inspired one story at a time, a library of leaders was created. It began as a journey to learn. As time went on, it began to grow. All it needed was a platform, and this podcast was created to listen, to inspire, to share. I am a storyteller, and this is my journey. Welcome to another episode of Profiles in Leadership. I'm your host, Steve Anderson, and this episode is brought to you by Silna Health. That's S-I-L-N-A, the premium front-end RCM company that leverages technology with a team of onshore insurance experts to handle benefit checks, eligibility checks, and prior authorizations. Finally, a vendor that you can trust, like a full-time employee that scales with your business. Just mention the Profiles in Leadership podcast to receive a free trial. Today, our guest is Dan Rootenberg, who is the CEO of Spear, which he co-founded in 1999, working out of a small treatment room in midtown Manhattan. He had a singular vision of combining clinical excellence with a five-star customer service experience. Spear has since grown to 55 plus locations throughout New York City, Westchester, Long Island, New Jersey, and Connecticut, employing over 950 people currently and is continuing to expand further. Dan's focus on organizational leadership has resulted in several honors and recognitions from business, medical, and academic institutions. Dan is an EY Entrepreneur of the Year, New York finalist, a National Entrepreneur of the Month winner, and an Olympic team medical coordinator. Spear has been named to the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing private companies in America 7 times, received Columbia University's Award for Leadership in Clinical Education twice, and has been named by SmartCEO magazine as a Future 50 company 5 times. Dan has been honored with National Practice of the Year Award twice by 2 leading industry organizations. Prior to Spear, Dan played pro baseball on 3 continents. In the summer of 2021, Dan traveled to the Olympic Games in Tokyo as a team PT and medical coordinator, as well as fulfilling that role in Major League Baseball's World Baseball Classic tournament held in Seoul, Tokyo, and Jupiter, Florida. Dan also serves on the board of directors of PSLL and the Bonnie Youth Club, 2 organizations devoted to teaching children lifelong values, self-worth, and responsibility through baseball. Dan has made numerous guest spots on sports talk radio and was featured in the award-winning documentary Holy Land Hardball. Dan now plays tennis in his free time and lives in New York City with his wife and 3 children. So Dan, welcome to the program. It's great to have you on.
Thank you, Steve. It's really great to be here and be with you.
And let's, for those that follow the show, you're one of the rare people that have been on twice. I actually went back and looked, and we recorded that in November of 2017. That's a ways back. And
Is this 3 for us or is this 2 for us?
I think it's 2. Do you think it's 3? I think it's 2.
Okay. I thought maybe because I thought we did one really early on. What was the year you thought?
It was November of 2017 when we recorded it, and I think we released it in 2018. But anyway,
that was a few years ago, wasn't it?
That was a few years ago. It was at a PPS national conference, I believe, and so things have changed a lot since then. So I thought it would be great to have you back on and see what you've been up to. So. Heard in the bio that you're growing 55 plus clinics at this point. Do you remember how many you had in 2017 when we talked the last time? I want to say 12 or something, right?
Yeah, in 2016, when we won that Practice of the Year award, it was 8.
8.
So
okay.
2017, it was probably maybe it was 12. That sounds right.
That's really great. Well, great growth, and you're still going strong. So, tell us, what are you excited about right now? What's going on? And it looks like you're continuing to grow. So that's a strategy, right? Just keep adding clinics and growing this company.
I think when you get to a certain point, and it is all about talent. It is all about the next generation of leaders and creating opportunities for them. And I think any organization, if there's a feeling of stagnation and there's nowhere for people to go, then it gets a little stale. And so I don't think companies really have a choice but to grow unless you're going to stay there. There is certainly, if you want to be a single practice, that's a beautiful thing to do, and you can absolutely do it. But I think once you start hitting a little bit of scale, you're on a journey, and it's a great journey. It's a challenging journey. You learn a lot, and you grow personally, professionally, and you grow the team around you. And really, that is the mission of that everybody is on that trip together. That's what
Yeah.
I'm excited about, honestly,
Yeah.
the growth for us and the growth for our people.
That's awesome. We're going to talk a lot more about that as we go, but let's back up a little bit and remind us, for those who maybe don't know, tell us a little bit about your pro baseball career. What, well, as a kid, I think, yeah, I heard you say before that that's all you could dream about was being a pro baseball player, and you did it. So tell us a little bit about your journey in that area.
I mean, I loved the game from very early on, from playing wiffle ball at camp, and somehow I just would hit the ball into the pool over the cabana at Coleridge Day Camp in Brooklyn, and I just had a knack for hitting, and I loved every aspect of the game. It's so I've been very involved with my kids, and very involved with youth. I just I sort of outperformed my ability every step of the way. That's what I wanted to do. I wasn't blessed with all this talent. Um, and like, and if I was, I I would have made the most of it. So
Yeah.
I was that guy who like got any edge possible. So I would train with these strength shoes. I don't know if you remember these from the 90s, but it was a shoe, a sneaker with like a waffle on the foot. And if you ran with these things, you're supposed to get faster. So I ran with that. In college, on my
Yeah.
batting helmet, I painted an opaque white color on my batting helmet because it was supposed to bring more light to the retina so you could see the ball better. Like
Yeah.
I was nuts. You open my locker, all these gadgets fell on the floor. And and so when I graduated, I was graduating in 1994, and of course it was the one year in the entire century where there was a baseball strike.
No, great.
And so I had some very good tryouts with the Phillies and different teams, the Phillies in particular, and they told me they were going to draft me. They were going to sign me as a free agent, actually, and because of the strike, they couldn't. So I had some decisions to make. I did end up playing pro ball with in the independent leagues, in the Frontier League, overseas. I played in the Israel Baseball League, which was started by Dan Duquette, who was the former GM of the Red Sox, and made lifelong friends along the way. So I played in Switzerland. I had an incredible time seeing the world through baseball, and then certainly through in the World Baseball Classic and the Olympics. Um, but it was like I just wrung any possible bit of talent out of myself, and just had a great time along the way. So
Yeah, that's
that's really my
awesome.
baseball story.
So can you still hit that 100-mile-an-hour fastball coming down the pipe here?
I'll tell you, there's kids on my son's high school team that are throwing 100 miles an hour.
Oh
So
my gosh.
I'm not sure I could hit them.
Uh, that's crazy.
I pivoted to tennis. Now I play tennis 3 times a week and I love it. It's nice to be able to get better at something
Yeah.
and play baseball, which I did play until I was 40, actually.
Yeah. Well, you got that eye-hand coordination down pretty good, so tennis makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So,
And
so
Steve, I know you've got some family. Didn't your
uh,
dad play in the Yankees farm system? Isn't that right?
he did. He played. Again, same kind of situation in that he was coming up and looking good and had a great chance and got drafted in the early 1950s and had to go to Lackland Air Force Base and play down there for a couple of years and when you lose 2 years out of your chances in the major leagues when at that time I think there were like what, maybe 18 teams, not 32 or whatever there is now. So the odds were tougher. And so when he came back, he did play in the farm leagues, but only spent a week or two up in the big Yankee Stadium. But was on a team, and I love to tell this story. So if you'll give me the grace, I'll tell it again. He went to spring training in St. Petersburg, Florida, with the Yankees in 1954, I believe it was. And on that team was Mickey Mantle, Billy Martin, Yogi Berra, Don Larson, Whitey Ford, Tony Kubek, um, just to name a few. And so that was an amazing experience for him, and yeah, it was pretty cool.
What a legacy.
Yeah, yeah, great. So let's get back to what you're doing there in New York City and with your PT company. And you talked about, that you grow because, it gives opportunity to the people in your organization to learn and grow and also have a chance to be in leadership roles as well. So by growing, you give them a chance to kind of do what you did and start a clinic and manage it and become part of this bigger organization. So uh, t- you've always been a real believer in that leadership development. So tell us about your leadership development strategy and kind of program that you do at Spear.
I consider Spear a learning organization. We are always learning, and it's okay to learn from mistakes. We want to give people that grace. And so, myself, I've always been on a mission, whether it's, I think you actually told me years ago about Vistage. I've been a member of Vistage, which is a CEO group for probably maybe 15 years now. A lot of members of our team are members of Vistage. We do our own version of what we do as a Spear Future Leader program. We have mentoring at every level of the organization. So we have the clinical track, and you can grow, and there's a career ladder clinically for you. We also have a leadership track. And then we also have a third track, which is really on the administrative side. What I love doing and really crafted together with some senior members of the team is our Spear Future Leader program. And that is a year-long program, and it is highly competitive to get in. It's got 4 modules: the leadership module, management module, financial and operations module, and then it's marketing and business development. And it ends in like a Shark Tank like competition, and the winner of that will actually get funded. So a lot of great innovations have come out of that. So it is a way to codify and expose our younger talent to what we think are critical to success, both professionally and personally. I mean, we focus a lot on soft skills, conversational capacity, leaning into difficult conversation, the fact that dynamic tension is a good thing, and the leaders that get comfortable being uncomfortable are the ones that succeed, and the ones that shy away from leaning into a difficult conversation are the ones that people have the most feelings of conflict with as a leader. So we do a lot of soft skills. Of course, we do. We teach hard skills as well, but it's those I just really believe that those soft skills are so important as a leader.
And who teaches the modules or the classes or whatever you want to call it in those sessions? Is it are you mostly doing it internally with people within your organization, or do you bring people in from the outside? What's that look like from the teaching perspective?
So it always starts with our team. I teach a number of the classes. Our leaders, our own leaders, are also our teachers, because people they can relate to each other so well, and we have such a great team. Like we've been asked to take this on the road. So far, it's just an internal program, but it could be external facing. But then we bring in folks. We'll do the disc profiles. So there were times where we'd bring that person in. Justin Moore, the CEO of the APTA, came in for a surprise visit and honored us last year. We will always like pepper in some special guests. Maybe you'll be one of them. And but it is primarily our team teaching our team, and that's really what makes it special.
So when you look back when you first started this, because I get a lot of this, and as you know, I help companies, design and start leadership development programs. So when did you decide that you needed to do this? How big was the company at that point, and then how did you get started? What did it look like the first few times you did it?
So this is our 12th year doing it. So we'd have to do some math to figure out when that must have started before I even did the podcast with you,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. That's right.
So we started pretty early, and it would be, eight people in a class. And now we're always fighting because so many people want to get in. I want to say that we now have 45 in a class, in
Yeah.
that year-long class. We got started. It's the curriculum has blossomed and the curriculum has advanced, but the concepts are the same. And I think we were very early on with teaching soft skills. It was sort of before it was in vogue. Now I think it's much more adopted. Even I hear like hospital systems talking about it. Back then, no one did. Um, so that's it was pretty clear early on, like how and we learned like what makes a great clinical director, and it's not just being a great clinician. And that was my early mistake. Like I've made the mistake of taking the best clinician and making them into a clinical director and then just pushing that person uphill, and it's exhausting. That is
Yeah.
not. So I really tried to learn from that mistake. And also it teaches this program will teach new leaders. It'll give them a bit of a value shift, because you do have to not just give skills, but you have to change and learn values so that when someone is coming in with a problem, it's not seen as a distraction to you as a leader. It's seen as an opportunity to coach and an opportunity to connect. And it's almost like this happened. I use this example because it happened last month. Right before Employee Appreciation Day, the night before. So I was filming a just a thank you that I sent to everybody, and and I just gave the example. My daughter Abby, she's 9, and I get a knock on my door at 3:30 in the morning, and I'm like, oh man, I need my sleep. It's that's a struggle.
Yeah.
And I open the door, and it's my 9-year-old daughter, and she has a bloody nose. And I was able to say to myself in that moment, this is an opportunity. You never know when the last one of these happens. And so I took it as an opportunity to give her a hug, take care of her, let her know her dad is there for her. And it's, it is like a value shift. Maybe it's now that my oldest is already about to go to college, you realize how quickly this thing called parenting can go.
Yeah.
Childhood is so fast. So it's almost like there's a similarity there where it's like take these interruptions as opportunities to connect. And I think that is a little bit of a shift for new directors and new leaders who only had to really think about their own schedules and their own patients. And so that is something we talk about and train and work out together.
Yeah, that's great. Now you, from very early on, have always looked for mentorship and learning opportunities and whatever. You mentioned Vistage, but you're also in peer-to-peer groups. You take leadership training. You had a business coach. You walk the talk. You do all this stuff, and I think you continue to do this stuff. So tell us a little bit about your theory that why you need to keep doing that.
Early on, I realized that I just, look, my dad died early. I was a freshman in college, and then he suddenly died. And it like a lot of my safety net was gone. Um, and my mom had a hard time at that point. So I realized like I'm either gonna make it, or make it by hustling and doing everything I can, or not. And so I realized like it's on me to be successful or not. And I think that drove me a bit, both on the baseball field and in certainly in my career. And so I realized, well, I don't have a big brother that understands the industry. I don't have I didn't have even someone that I knew as a physical therapist. And so I said, you know what? That's okay. I'm going to pay for consultants. I've never been shy of trying to find consultants that understand, that have walked in my shoes, been where I want to be. And it is the best investment you can make because that is someone that has incredible experience that you can learn from. So I've had so many different consultants, and each consultant will tell you, at least they tell me that nobody followed their advice as closely as I did.
Well, that's
Right.
good. That's why pay for somebody and listen to them and not do anything? That's the classic. How many hospital systems and other big organizations have you seen that pay all this boatload of money to have consultants come in and then they don't do any of it? So it's like, what's the point? So that's good.
Yeah, I didn't take it for granted, like you learn just pearls of wisdom and then of course, but it's not, you have to execute on them. And that's what I
Yeah.
think. I think that our team actually does super well. Very high on execution, very high on accountability, and in a kind, fun atmosphere.
Yeah. And I think that that's a good lesson because I do see a lot of people sometimes they want to do these things and it's often like, well, I'm not big enough yet, or I'm not, the organization isn't large enough to do that yet. But you did it early. You did it when like you said, you just had a few clinics and you saw the value in it. And I think that that helps you grow as opposed to saying, well, when I get bigger and I grow, then I'll do that stuff.
Right. I mean, why wait until you have like poor habits? Start them early. We had budgets when we had one clinic, and I learned that from a consultant that actually we worked with Paul Martin very early on. I'm talking about like 2004.
Yeah.
Uh, and so we installed that system of budgets and targets and the discipline. So which I know most people do, but not everybody. And you just it's really goal setting. There is a I think it's the law of attraction. There is such power in setting goals. So I have our leadership team set goals every single year, write them down, and they're both professional and personal. And I have found, and I have these every year, and some of them were written like really nicely on paper and typed out. And then I had one where I just sat in a New York City bar with my wife and put it on the back of a receipt. And these were lofty goals. And I have to tell you, like they've been achieved and it feels really good. There is a power to writing down those goals, letting the universe know, and it finds a way to happen. It's pretty special, I think.
Well, one of my mottos is that I'm never afraid to ask the question, and I see you that way as well. When I've run into you and at national meetings or whatever, you're somebody who's not afraid to ask the question. You come up and ask somebody, "Well, I've got this situation. What would you do, or what do you think I ought to do?" And you're always, looking for opinions and experiences and whatever that may help you make the right decision. So, I think that's part of it too, is having that open mind, realizing you don't have all the answers and just asking other people what they do and maybe you learn something along the way.
You're bringing a memory back to me, Steve. That has to do with you. It was a question I asked you. This was 2014, I want to say, at a PPS, and I was at a crossroads. We were opening up our fifth clinic, and I had someone that I knew, an external candidate, really experienced, someone I worked with at the hospital, hospital for special surgery, and which is where I started my career. And I, I wanted I wanted to offer that person the job as the clinical director. It was like our first like do we the question was, do we hire external candidates that are superstars or someone that was a little bit less experienced, but knew our culture and grew up in our farm system. And I put the question to you, Steve.
Yeah, I
Did I?
remember. I remember.
Yeah. And you said to me, you probably didn't even know me that well, but you said to me, "Oh, I go with my own people all day long,"
Yeah.
and that influenced me. I made I gave our person the promotion, and it became the number one clinic in the company. And the lesson was that we only promote from within. Anytime we can, we hire, of course, we hire, we bring them in, and we promote from within. So every single clinical director, we now have 60 clinics, every single one of them has been internal candidates that have gone through our Spear Future Leader program. And I have to say that that was a influential conversation. It was between you and me and it was probably like, 5-minute conversation. It was very influential.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, you're more than welcome. But I think again, it's a great example of what you're training your people to be, part of the organization. And so, yeah, you might, how many times have we seen? Well, March Madness is right now, right? This will probably be released after March Madness, but as you and I are talking, it's March Madness. And a lot of times you see the teams that play really good team ball do better than the team that has all these, superstars, or even take it to a different level. Let's say an all-star team. A lot of times a good team that knows and trusts each other and knows how to play together, even though they're less talented, will do better than an all-star team. So that's that team dynamics and that teamwork. And if they know your system and know what your beliefs are and your values are, and know the strategy and whatever, it just makes sense that they'll probably do better. Is that person still in the company that we
That
talk about?
person moved to Canada.
Oh, wow. Okay.
She did great. She actually married another therapist, another spear therapist. So now they have two beautiful spear babies.
Oh, okay.
They
Perfect.
moved,
Perfect.
they moved home to Canada and they're doing great.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Well, it's and again, I would also say that you probably do pretty well on the recruiting end and whatever, because people hear about this program, they hear about the upward movement and the training and the leadership opportunities and whatever, and they seek you out. They come to you. I would bet that you have less trouble finding people to join your organization than other groups that don't have that kind of a program.
Listen, I think so. Culture is everything to us, and it's not just something that's on the wall. Like we live it, breathe it every single day. You feel it when you come in, and people want to be part of it, and they add to it. And we have a whole partnership track for our team members, so they can literally become partners in clinics. And I think that's very powerful. To me, it matters not because I need a partner to buy into a clinic, but because I want to partner with our industry. I want to partner with our physical therapists. I want to partner with our occupational therapists. And if someone wants to they want to be able to like move up and attain ownership, we have that track. And so I think right now we have maybe 35 partners.
That's
And
fantastic.
that's
Yeah.
pretty special. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's really great. So, when you look back when you started this, let's say, back at the 6 or 8 clinic level, I would assume that, like most of us, you were doing everything. And now you're doing some different things. You got 60 clinics. What does a day look like for Dan Rootenberg when you get up in the morning?
Um, get up in the morning. I'll try to I try to have my day match my chronotype. I am like a night owl. So I will not schedule a meeting before 11 a.m. I'll do all my athletic activities, whether it's the gym, the swimming, tennis in the morning. Then I'm like ready to rock at 11. And I go pretty late at night. I have to set an alarm on my phone to say stop. But what I'm doing is it's really like high leverage activities. I try to stay in the area of unique strength. I'll do a lot of certainly a lot of meetings with our VPs and on our leaders, but I try to really uh, be thinking about what can we be doing with our direct to employers, direct to unions. We have a ribbon cutting today at the Union Health Center in New York City with one of the largest unions in the country. So we're doing some really innovative thinking around that. Uh, we're doing a lot of work with, even with health systems and really trying to do and to live the PT first life and show this to people and show this to employer groups because it's the employer groups that have the number one spend is MSK. Uh, Cancer spend is actually 2 to musculoskeletal, and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to solve it. So I think that we as PTs are so well positioned. We know it. We're talking to the choir, but there is a very exciting, to me, one of the most exciting pieces of our growth is this direct to employer, direct to union type of activity. So again, that's just something that I really, to me, it's fun, it's innovative. How do you create different treatment models that can combine things like direct patient engagement, telehealth, and then in-person brick and mortar PT? I think that hybrid solution, which we are doing a lot of work on, is the wave of the future, as opposed to the just purely digital health that you see out there that's actually not physical therapy necessarily. Um, it's digital health. And so we are really well positioned as an industry to thrive in that arena.
I can remember back in the days where New York State was considered like one of the worst places to have a practice because the payments were so low. And I think, tell me I'm wrong, but I think that's changed. I think payments have come up. I think you're doing better. Of course, none of us believe we're paid for what we enough for what we do, but I think it's a better business environment at least. And if that's true, what changed? What did you do in New York State, or what happened? I'm sure that just didn't happen by accident. What did you do to make payment more reasonable in your area?
Well, first of all, I do all the negotiations myself with payers. And, sometimes I hear owners say, oh, I've got to hire someone to handle this or that. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but it starts with like you being your best advocate. So I have relationships with the payers and I've been successful, frankly, with that by really being present. I mean, we got a contract with United initially, and it was the 5th clinic, the one that I asked you about, that was down in Chelsea. We had a big we had a big opening celebration. We had some member of the New York Jets. We had wine. We had all these people, and I had gone to United Healthcare's town hall, which was at a hospital, and I met personally five of the five of the contract negotiators. They all went. It was at NYU, and I met them, and I invited each of them to the ribbon cutting, and they each said yes. I was shocked. So it was personal relationships. It rained that day. 4 canceled. 1 showed up. Her name was Nathania. We rolled out the red carpet for her like you wouldn't believe. She felt like a celebrity, and did the contract with her that was like well beyond everybody else. So it was a personal, it was a personal connection and creating that. So, but then really what made things better was scale, density in the marketplace made a big difference, and that payers start looking at you differently when you have some density. So I think to be able to, nothing is wrong with growing in many different places, but if you are integral to a marketplace, then all of a sudden the relationship with payers does start to evolve, and I think that's part of why we've been successful at it.
Yeah, and that I think the key word there is relationships. I mean, building relationships, and it sounds so simple, but it just has to start there. And so, what's your advice to someone who doesn't have contacts in those payer companies? Because it's like, they're behemoths. They're like, what do I do? Talk to the secretary at the front desk, or do I, how do I get in and meet the right people? You said that, you went to a town hall meeting, so maybe you start there. So what advice do you give to somebody who says, I know I need these relationships, but where do I even start?
Well, I would say first is a mind shift. So start there. And we can't just complain to people about payments and just talk about how much salaries have gone up and how much rents have gone up. Of course, those things are true. But we have to put ourselves in their shoes. And so how can you help them? How can you add value? Think about what their pain points are. And so go in with that mindset and find little places where you can create a personal connection. So that the one with United happened to be at an NYU uh, town hall. So there are these moments where you have access and you can start low on the rung. Um, it's you don't have to start with a lunch with the CEO, and that could happen later. But
Yeah.
you start with the lowest person that is the contract negotiator, and that's literally how we started. And the same thing happened when we looked at our next contract, which was Aetna and Cigna, and it really was like that. Now it does you get on their radar more and more with scale and with market density. So it becomes easier to have their ear, but it's always the mindset of how can I help? How can I be a value add to you? And like we are physical therapy companies, and we do so much good, and we are like so well positioned to bend the cost curve. So being able to articulate that and understand that they're not always ready to hear it, but when
Yeah.
they are, it's really effective, and what we do really is helpful.
So you build this, in my opinion, this world-class company. I mean, it's just it's impressive, and the people in your organization are pumped, and they're excited and they're passionate, and you're just going forth and you're growing it. But there comes a point where, you know, can you continue to do it the way you've always done it? So I know that with organizations your size, there's always that piece where maybe we should look for a partner. Maybe we should get some help on the financial side and whatever. And I know you've been thinking about that and talking about that for years and years and years and years because of the company you run. But you have recently taken on a partner. So tell me why you made that decision, and what does that partner do for you now?
Yeah, I mean it's been 26 years, and what we were looking for is a partner that is not going to take us off our course, but is going to appreciate where we're headed and is going to really appreciate the culture that we built and the people that are doing it. So we have a great partner. They're more of their origins are in a family office dynamic, which is a little different because then it's not like a 3 or 4 year private equity situation and then flip. It's patient capital. It's thought partnership. They operate at the board level. That means that we're making we're the people that are our leadership team is running the show, and they're as allergic to debt as I am. So it's very low debt, and I feel really good about it. This is I guess we're approaching like 5 month mark, but if I have a question, and Steve, I love asking questions. So,
Yeah, yeah.
it's nice to have a partner someone that's interested in your growth and your company's growth. So, it's really a great relationship.
And they bring money to the table, right? So when you need to open more clinics and expand maybe even faster than you had done before, you have that financial piece that gives you a little boost so that you can do it and not have to wait until things come around so that if you see an opportunity, you can grab it.
That's right. And we see growth in a lot of different arenas. Um, our de novo growth, which is just continuing to open up our clinics, is the most important growth. That is what we are excellent at. And so, we're going to continue to do that. I want to say we're opening up 20 plus sites this year in our own markets, but we also now are, and this enables us to more easily look across state lines. Look across state lines if you think about like the Amtrak strategy that we have, and think through what partnerships can look like for us. And if we can be solutions to other practices that are, as people oriented as we are, culture is the name of the game for us. It's not about putting dots on the map. It's really about partnering with great like-minded folks. And to me, that's like we're a special company, and that preserving that is really important. So, but it gives us tremendous firepower to be able to execute on that leg of the stool, that partnership leg of the stool.
So, you're still a young man, and but you said 26 years. So let's say the initial years were getting started and whatever, but you've been a CEO for a long time. It's hard to be in the saddle that long, in an organization like that. Without spilling the beans here or anything, what does your future look like? Do you still love what you're doing? Do you still see yourself in the CEO role, or do you see yourself bringing someone else in or moving somebody else in and you stepping back a little bit? What are you thinking down the road here the next 3 to 5 to 7 years?
Yeah, I love what I do. I see my role as the most important thing is continuing to strengthen our leaders and the leaders around me. We have great talent around me. And I think that's just, I am, what's really important for us and for probably everybody listening is to be able to look beyond the horizon. Sometimes that's hard to do when you're working in the business every day. You have to work on the business and you have to look ahead. And so, what does Spear look like in 5 years? What do we look like in 3 years? You're always evolving, and so my focus right now is continuing to develop our team, develop our leaders, have people continue to move up in this organization, and doing that will take pressure off of me personally, and will take pressure off of the listener, you personally, because that is how you just can't do everything yourself. You
Yeah.
will run out of hustle eventually. You know that.
Well, well, it's going to be interesting because as we told the story earlier about when you said you'll go internal, for a clinic director, there comes a point. I've been through it. You're going to go through it. Others have been through it where yes, you can train and yes, you can develop and whatever, but the company gets big enough to where, do you have a person that has the skill set and the business acumen and whatever to really take a huge company forward compared to a smaller one, what it used to be. So then again, do you have to go to find somebody from the outside to do that, or do you bring somebody from the inside? And my story, I fought hard, when I retired that, we needed to have somebody from the inside because again, you want to protect your values and your culture and all those things that you've, fought so hard for and spent so much time developing. You don't want to bring some business guy in that has no clue about that stuff and then do it. Although, there's been examples of some people doing that and being successful. So that's going to be, a big hurdle for you someday as to decide what to do in that realm.
You're right, and I am trying to prepare eventually. Yeah, the next generation of leaders. Everyone's going to move up eventually, and I think we have to always think of who would eventually replace me, and that should be at every single level. And
Yeah.
that means that you're pouring yourself into the people that are maybe reporting to you now. And that's the same thing that we tell our clinical directors, because our clinical directors are working with their team, and who are you developing? It has to be a point of pride. So if one of your therapists turns into the next clinical director down the street, like that is a point of pride. It's not a negative. And
Right.
so I have to do that, and everybody in the organization has to do that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
I do believe in PT run organizations. We are PT run, and I think that I will like hold on to that as long as possible, because I think there is tremendous value there um, in our industry.
So we talked earlier, you're a sports guy, you still love sports, you're still into it. What does the company do in that on that side of the fence? Do you work with pro teams, sports teams? Do you sponsor events? Are you marketing within their events? Tell me a little bit about your relationship with sports teams now.
Yeah, we actually, one of the players that we just rehabbed had a major league start last week, and pitched great. We've worked with the pitcher that was throwing already 95 and now is throwing 99. He's a 17-year-old kid. His dad texted me the other day and said, Dan, you've changed my life, and my son's life. This kid is probably going to be a first rounder. It's him that's throwing 99, not us. But we work with a lot of we work with tons of players. Lacrosse, very involved in lacrosse. Um, on the tennis side of the equation, squash. We do a lot, and I couldn't even name it all. I have to like now look, because our team is super is pretty incredible. The breadth of relationships that we have. So all over the map. I mean, one of the things, a lot of our therapists have played college and professional sports. We just have that kind of athletic population. So uh, we do running analysis, we do golf analysis. Working with a lot of high school, college athletes, and of course pro athletes. So it's no shortage of that. And that's really, it's funny, because I went into PT to work with pro athletes, but then
Right.
you realize pretty quickly that getting a grandfather to be able to get down to the floor to play with his grandchild is like just as rewarding, if
Yeah.
not more sometimes. And having an older gentleman be able to walk his daughter down the aisle, it's what we do is so special, and we're very lucky to be able to so positively affect the community. So it's not like the vanity of working with this team or that that just drives us. I think we're very lucky with what we do as a profession. We are helping people every single day in ways that nobody else really can. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we all went into the profession to begin with, right?
That's right.
How long has it been since you've treated a patient?
The last patient I treated was at the Tokyo Olympic Games, and
Oh, okay.
I even
Okay.
questioned that. Maybe we should get someone else from
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because people have asked me too, why did you or how did you, give up that patient care? And yeah, you work so hard to be a good physical therapist, and you study and you practice and you have experience. And so you get in a position where you're asked to do something where you have to give that up. And I won't lie, it was really, really hard for me because I didn't want to give that up. Yet now on the other side of it, I look and I feel like I've had two amazing careers. One was in patient care and one was, leading a company and love them both. And if I'm probably realistic about it, I'm probably better at the latter, probably better leader CEO than I was a physical therapist, even though that was my whole dream to be the best physical therapist out there. So it's an interesting position to be in.
Yes, and I did both for a long time, and then found that I'd be treating somebody And then I knew that I was going to run back after that patient left to the computer and answer this email and that email, make this call and that call. And I looked forward to it. I was like, I really love that business side and creating and, you know, negotiating. And I actually enjoyed it and realized that that skill set was much harder to replace with than my clinical side, which I could hire a new grad and they'd be, you know, like 80% as good as me right away. So I don't know. That's where I realized, okay, I don't think I could hire someone to do this leadership piece the same way I'm doing it. But so then I just realized after, and I guess it was probably after like 15 years of treatment, let me just really focus on what I'm best at, and I
Yeah.
love it. So it was kind
Yeah.
of it was hard at first, but then it became easy.
Yeah. That's a good choice. Good choice. So, what advice would you give to some younger professional who has, let's say, two, three, four, five clinics, and they want to be the next Dan Rootenberg? What do you do? What do you focus on, and how do you get there?
Um, what comes to mind is putting systems in place. I think it was James Clear, the author, who says you don't rise to the level of your habits, you fall to the level of your systems. And for people that want to grow, it can't just be your habit, no matter how good they are. Like you really have to focus on creating those systems, creating those processes. That's not necessarily the most fun thing in the world, but if you can make it your own, then you're creating a chassis for growth that will be so much easier than if you're just sort of managing just like one relationship at a time. So that would be my advice, to really start thinking bigger and start thinking about systematizing some of the great things that you do. And systematizing doesn't mean that it's mindless, and it doesn't mean that it's heartless or soulless. You create your own system and you put your own heart and soul into it. And that is powerful beyond expectation.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Well, I'm sure you get this as I got it too. Sometimes you'll have people say, "Oh, yeah, but you were in the heyday of private practice physical therapy, and things were going great, and kind of painted as it's not like it was, and it's hard to do reproduce that." But my question to you is, do you feel confident and optimistic about private practice physical therapy going forward? Or do you think there has to be some major changes that are going to occur?
Look, I am extremely optimistic about what we do, where we sit in the ecosystem of healthcare, how much value we add. I am really bullish on what we're doing as a profession. So, you talk about the heyday. I heard the same thing when I started in '99. I heard about the heyday. You didn't even have to like submit notes, and you got paid twice as much. We opened our doors in '99, and I remember 6 months later, I got a letter from Blue Cross Blue Shield that they're cutting our rates by 50%, and they did. And it literally took 25 years to get back to where we were and exceed it. So,
Yeah,
there's always going to be heyday talk, but we really are in a great place, and as a profession, and we need more PTs, not less. There's no shortage of patient demand right now, and that's on a national level. People need us. There is not a demand issue. If anything, there's a supply issue. So, what can we do to ensure that this profession keeps growing, that we increase the supply, that we are bringing more people into the profession? That to me, that's the name of the game for our industry, and we will thrive well into the future if we can figure that out.
yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Well, Dan, in anticipation of our discussion today, what haven't I asked you that you want to be sure and get into the program today?
I think we've had a great discussion, Steve. Always enjoy our conversations. I think we should just be really optimistic about where we're headed. And I think we touched on everything really. Uh, to me, let's keep learning. I know that was also your ethos, and
Yep.
we've got to just keep on moving and moving forward, all of us together. It's
Yeah,
great.
that's for sure. Well, Dan, at this point in the interview, as you know, because you've been on this before, I always ask my guests the same common question. And that question is, in relation to leadership, what is a pearl of wisdom that you could leave us with today?
What comes to mind is what are you doing to make the path better for those coming after you? And that is something we have an award every year, the Jimmy Oleos Award. Jimmy Oleos was an incredible PT with us, became one of our first regional directors, um, and was like the heart and soul of the company. And he passed tragically, and we always keep his memory alive uh, because he was so important to all of us. And we do have that award every year at our holiday party, and it's one of the most prestigious awards that we have. And it exemplifies what he did, which is making the path better for those that come after you. So
Yeah,
that's my pearl right there.
that's well said. Well said. Well, Dan, it's been a pleasure as always sitting down and talking with you. You're a real you're an icon in the profession. When I think of the top practices in the nation and who's doing it well and who's doing it right, Spear is always at the top, and you as a leader is always at the top of that as well, with a few others. And so, what you've created has been just really impressive and a model for others to follow. So, keep doing what you're doing, keep leading the way. We're rooting for you, Rootenberg, rooting for you all the way. Um, and it's great to have you on the program today.
Well, Steve, I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and it's a true honor to be here talking to you today. So thank you for that.
Okay, well, have a great time at that ribbon cutting ceremony today, and I'm sure we'll run into each other down the road.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Profiles in Leadership. To listen to all my interviews, subscribe to Profiles in Leadership with Steve Anderson on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, and many other popular podcast platforms. Some of these interviews are on video, and you can search YouTube for Profiles in Leadership with Steve Anderson. You can also access the entire library of interviews on my website, orange.coaching.com, and that is orangetheword.coaching.com, and go to the Media Center and click on Podcasts or Video Gallery. You can also enter the website from pilpodcast.com.